Hi, everyone, and welcome to another special Talking Song episode. We have Nick with us. Welcome.
How's it going?
Pretty good, pretty good. All right, so you sent me a message and said, actually, you volunteered. You said, I'd like to be a guest. And I was like, sure. And if I remember correctly, to some degree, you want to share some things that have been helpful for you, but also had some questions, etc. So, yeah, just feel free to tell your story or just ask questions. The word is yours.
Yeah, all right. Well, this whole sleep thing with me started back in it was August 2020. I had just gotten back from vacation in Martha's Vineyard with my girlfriend, and when I got back, I remember it was almost like I thought I got sick with you know what, and I don't know what it was, but I think it sent me into like a a panic attack, and I've never had one in my life, so that was all new. Um, I ended up, going to the hospital. They checked me for, COVID, Lyme disease. My head was spinning. Um, so that ended up happening. And then I remember that I think it was 2 nights after, I was sleeping fine. Like at this point, I wasn't thinking about sleep. Um, it was the last thing on my mind. And then I got one night of bad sleep. The next night, I didn't really sleep at all, but I didn't think much of it. And then the next night, I didn't sleep again. And I started going on the internet and, trying to find solutions and all that other good stuff. And I ended up running into, different characters on YouTube. You had, I think, a guest. I think he was on your show at one time. And, I thought I had the fatal insomnia. And ever since that point, that was the start of, this roller coaster ride. And so, yeah, I mean, going to your videos, reading different things, it was honestly you that took me out of that phase of thinking it was that. So that was pretty amazing. Yeah.
And sorry to interrupt, Nick, but so it was back in November that you had this scare, and you went to August of last year, right?
2020.
Oh, 2020, August of 2020.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then after like a couple of sleepless nights, you were like, wait, something is wrong here. You get worried about sleep,
Yep.
started kind of researching it, got a little bit into the rabbit hole. But then you found this channel, and that was helpful. Now, timeline wise, like how when did you find the channel, and when did it start getting?
I want to say it was maybe a week after.
Oh, okay.
I maybe even stumbled on your videos, but I feel like I didn't find at the time what I was looking for, which was, sporadic or whatever. Sporadic.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the name. That's how much I don't think about it anymore.
That's good.
But yeah, I mean, you had a video. I think you had a guest on whose family member had it, and I'll never forget, and it still sticks in my mind. You went, if you can type and, if you think you have sporadic fatal insomnia, you don't have it. And, that was probably the most reassuring thing. So that got me over that speed bump. So.
And so this happened very quickly, actually.
Yep.
Just a week later, you're like, okay, I don't have sporadic fatal insomnia, but did the whole fear about sleep and this trouble sleeping kind of fade away then, or it went to some other struggle?
It went to another struggle. It was, so after that happened, I went to my doctor. They set me up with a psychiatrist. This is in the span of like a week and a half. All of a sudden I had, according to them, depression, anxiety. They did sleep tests where I couldn't sleep. And so they put me on an antidepressant for a while that I personally didn't think I needed. I'm off that now. And then and so my sleep, it was weird. It was like I would sometimes at the most without any medication sleep an hour at night. It felt like a blink. Um, I still went on with my day, but not getting sleep after a while, worrying about it. Um, I was really tired during the day. I work construction. I pour concrete for a living. Um, so it started having an effect on my job, not getting sleep. Um, we operate with heavy machinery, stuff like that. So I ended up taking time off work, trying to focus on sleep. And, it just, that wasn't helping. So I eventually got prescribed Trazodone. They wanted to put me on 100 milligrams. And at the time, I didn't really know what all this was about. Um, so I took 100 the first time I took it, and I was like zonked the next day when I woke up. I was like, I can't do this. So the next day I went, but I slept. The next day I went down to 50. I slept, but I still felt zonked. Um, and then I ended up, so I'm at the point now, I started right off the beginning with 25 milligrams. Helped me sleep fine. I could kick that little hangover in about an hour in the morning. Um, and now I'm still taking Trazodone. Um, and I vary between I'm breaking a 25 and half sometimes, and I still take 25. And I think I've just built it into such a routine um, that everything at the moment is fine. But I want to be able to get to the next step where I don't want to have to take that.
Exactly. Got it.
Yeah, I know it's a lot.
No, no, actually, what going on in my mind right now is like this is a great thing to have a conversation about because it's such a common topic.
Yeah,
And just so I have a clear picture, and by the way, like my standard, nothing here is medical advice. We're just having a
yeah, yeah.
conversation that applies to I think everyone. That's a general conversation, but um, I just wanted so after you got prescribed trazodone, you started sleeping. You kind of went down to a lower dose, but since then, and this has been, I'm guessing now, like a year and a half or something like that.
Yeah, just
that
about.
Things have been pretty stable.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm at the point now where I don't think about how many hours I sleep a night. Um, and it's funny too. I mean, I don't want to make this sound bad, but like I'm sleeping like 7 to 8 hours, which is like for me mentally. The only thing mental about this now for me is when I start thinking about getting off it, and then there's nights when I don't take it to try to sleep, and I find myself struggling to sleep, so then I take it.
Exactly. Yes.
So it's like I think in my mind, I know there's something mental going on about this because there's been times like so this past summer, it was actually last year in April. Um, I had I was so me and my buddy we go fishing a lot. That's a hobby of ours. I was so excited one night to go before we were gonna go wake up early and go fishing. Um, I took a trazodone. I didn't sleep because I was so jacked up. Um, I came after we were done fishing at 12 in the afternoon. I came home and I fell asleep for like 6 hours without anything. And
Exactly.
and at that point, still to this day, was like I think that was the like awakening moment that like there really is nothing physically or uh, wrong with me preventing me from sleeping. I think it's something psychological.
Yes. Yes. So glad you saw that, and like your analysis was like exactly right. You took it and you didn't sleep at all, and then the next day you didn't take it, but you slept. Like that's a big
Yeah,
deal right there.
yeah. I got home from fishing and I was so tired that I just went and laid down in the bed. And I wake up 5 hours later and I'm like, oh, I didn't take anything.
Exactly.
And this there have been times where I've like been able to take like an hour nap here and there, and I'm not it. So there's another thing I would like to say um, that I forgot to mention at the beginning of my struggle. Um, so before this happened, when I had that panic attack, I used. I mean, I don't know if I could say this, but I used to smoke marijuana.
Yeah.
Uh, that day, the day I had that panic attack, I quit. So I stopped smoking marijuana, and uh, I stopped drinking coffee. So at the time, I thought maybe, I was used to going to bed under the influence. So I think that had something a part to play. But it's been since then I haven't smoked marijuana, and I feel like my life's a lot better. Not giving any advice. That's just me. But so I think that had a part to play, and I'm at a point now where I try not to think about it too much, and I need to find a way to get from this step of I just don't want to take anything to go to have.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I know exactly what, yeah, I have so many things I want to share that I think could be really helpful for you and for everyone who listens to talk about here. And just like a super quick comment on the marijuana thing, like, and the coffee thing is like, of course, when we're scared, something is happening, we want to have a sense of control. We think, oh, maybe it's the coffee, maybe it's the marijuana, let's stop it. And, you know, oftentimes, whenever we make changes, it's often just confusing because then something happens and they're like, oh, well, the coffee didn't work and you have to stop something else, or it did work, or things like that, right? But that said, maybe like I'm and one part of me is really glad to hear to say I stopped taking smoking marijuana. I feel fine. To me, it's almost like maybe part of the reason you were smoking marijuana was kind of like, to calm yourself down, to avoid some uncomfortable emotion, things like that. And now you don't do that anymore, and
Yeah.
you're, just the more freedom. It's nice.
Yeah, no, yeah, it was it was one of those things where, back in high school started slow, and then,
Yeah.
you know, and it was more of like, and this is the thing, maybe I do have, a little bit of anxiety, but I've come to learn that I think everybody just has some,
Everybody.
highs and lows, and like, I'm not constantly stuck in a low. Most of the time I'm pretty happy. So I feel like it's, that wasn't that, but yeah, no, like you said, maybe it was, I was using it as a crutch unknowingly.
A little bit, yeah. Who knows? Yeah, exactly.
So
So anyway, that was a little comment. So now, yeah, let's focus on today's topic, which will be like, okay, you're taking this medication, but you actually don't want to take it. How can you wean off? How can you transition to a place where you don't take anything at all?
mm,
Um, so to me, and this is a very common question, so I have kind of almost an algorithm, like things I talk about when people ask this. It's like, to me, the first thing is to understand like how sleep works and what makes us sleep. And I'm gonna do a little quick talk on this for everyone, and then you feel free to comment here, Nick.
yep.
And so basically, this is what I call like the gas and brake model, which if for anyone out there, it's in my books, but it's also in the This Is Natto playlist. You can find a nice video on the gas and brake model. Basically goes like this. There are only two things that really matter when it comes to sleep. And I call them the gas and brake. So the gas is basically our sleep drive, like how much our body needs to sleep. It's sort of like it's very similar to hunger, in a sense that the longer we don't eat, the more hungry we become, and the more we're likely to eat. Right? It's quite simple. Same thing with sleep. Like the longer we're awake, the more the body kind of wants to sleep, and the more sleep drive we have. That's the gas in our sleep system. That's the thing that sort of makes us sleep, if you will. And then we also have a brake in the sleep system, which is a safety brake. And going back to the hunger analogy, I like to use this analogy where like you can be really hungry, you haven't eaten for like a whole day, and then somebody serves you like, I don't know, like kidney pie or something. You're like, oh, that doesn't look good, and your hunger just goes away. It's kind of like your body just says, don't eat this. It's a safety thing. It just, your hunger goes away just for safety. And there's a break in that system. Same thing with the sleep system. There's a break in our sleep system too, so that if we're just about to fall asleep and then we think like, oh, I left the oven on, that's not safe to sleep right there. So the brain kind of wakes us up, and it's in a sleepiness kind of goes away. And so that's the break in our sleep system, the gas and break. That's really the only thing. And one important point here is that nothing external can like make you sleep. It's just physiologically impossible. If you have slept, like let's say you slept 8 hours at night, and your sleep drive is gone, your body doesn't need sleep, doesn't matter how many medications you take, you are not going to sleep. Nothing can make you sleep, right? Except your own body.
Yeah.
And so this like, so how why does this play a role when it comes to medication? Well, the point is that they actually never make you sleep. As confusing as it can sound, they never make you sleep. Sometimes like the first time you took 100 milligrams of Trazodone, you were sleep deprived, surely. You had a strong sleep drive. There was a lot of anxiety as well. You took the Trazodone, then it does have some sedating effect, right? It sedates you and you feel the sedation, and then you go like, oh, I don't have to do anything now. This medication will take care of sleep for me. And that's the idea that I don't have to do anything to sleep. That's really the magic. That's kind of allowing sleep to happen.
Mhm.
But so the first thing is, to me, is always like learning that medications actually never make you sleep. So just to pause there, have you heard me say this before, or is this familiar? What are your thoughts on this?
Um, no, I totally agree. I mean, I have a couple that you said medications never actually make you sleep. I've actually ran into a couple of those occasions. Light bulb just went off in my head, and I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember, quite a few nights where in the begin, back then where, you know, I took some different things that like I was up all night anyway. When I was really, really ramped up. That was the first 2-3 weeks of that thing, and it just, you know, it really is true.
Exactly. So it's like, to use that, what you just said is like, if that break, that safety break is very strong, doesn't matter how much medication you take. It's just that idea that it's not safe to sleep. If that's still there, you won't sleep. But
Yeah.
if the medications actually lead to this idea that now I'm safe, now I don't have to do anything, that idea is what makes you sleep.
Yeah. Yep.
And again, it just points out that sleep is effortless. It comes from no effort. So, okay, cool. We covered the first topic. And then we actually covered, we talked about how we talked about delegation. And so the third topic, and this I don't think may not apply exactly to you, but I think it's a general topic that's helpful to talk about, which is so often the struggle when it comes to medications come from this conflict. So a lot of people have this kind of two conflicting interests. Let's say one interest is, I want to sleep, like all humans, we want to sleep. Well, that's normal, right? I want to sleep, and then also, and also my other interest, I don't want to take anything to sleep. Which is, and both of them are very understandable. But oftentimes, when you've taken something for sleep and you're doing well, there's this friction because like I don't want to take this because I don't want the side effects and I don't want to be dependent on something, but also I don't want to not sleep. So you have this conflict within you. And so I think when you have this kind of conflict and friction within you, sometimes it leads to a struggle, which you don't have, Nick, which is great. But for some people, it's like they're taking something and they still don't sleep well and they're struggling a lot.
Yeah.
But the teaching still applies, which is when there's this conflict within you, there's always a little friction. It's not a nice thing to experience. So how can we meet this? Well, there's basically two ways. One is the way of sort of changing how we think about it, meaning there are surely millions of people out there who take 25 milligrams of trazodone every single night and think and don't never think about it. Like they don't criticize themselves. They are not hard on themselves for it. They think of it as like taking a vitamin. Like some people just take a vitamin every night and that's it. So sometimes just that, like thinking like it's fine. I can take this the rest of my life. Why should I be hard on myself for it?
Hmm.
Then the conflict is over because there's no more doubt or self questions about it. That's one way. And the other way is, of course, to not take it anymore. Then the conflict is also over.
Yeah.
So I just like to point this out because for some people that are really in a struggle, they can think, they can sort of change their mindset and be like, this is a vitamin or some supplement. Like I just take it and I don't have to be hard on myself. That can ease the struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's where you are. But I just kind of share that for
Yeah.
everyone. But before I talk about the next step, which is, okay, if you want to get off it, how should we approach that? Before I go there, so far, thoughts, questions, Nick?
Um, yeah, no, I just think, you make a really good point about that, the conflict. Because, there have been not like the nights when I go to bed, you know, I want to say it was probably 3 weeks ago. I got to say this. I went into my bed. Um, I was on my phone. I started dozing off and I hadn't taken the trazodone. Um, and, I had it next to my bed on my little, shelf there. And I fell asleep for probably, I don't know, might have been a half an hour. And I wasn't thinking about anything. And then when I had woken up, I looked over, I saw the trazodone, and I said, "Oh, should I take that? No, I don't need it. I'm falling asleep." And And then I started thinking about it, and I was awake for like 2 hours. You know, I'm not looking at it. So, you know, I think it's because I am able to sleep with what I'm doing. I don't care about it as much anymore. But then, you know, when I have the struggles at night, sometimes, you know, it's in a weird way, it's a little aggravating. But, you know, through watching your videos and, you know, tips and reading, I just think, you know, I almost like don't get mad anymore. And I think that's a huge, not, not angry, but like to not work myself up is a huge thing. You know, I think that's very important for, you know, I'm no pro at this yet, but, you know, if the harder you fight it, for me, I've noticed the harder I fight it, the worse it is.
100%. I just want to emphasize what you said. Like when we start being a little kinder to ourselves, like when we stop beating ourselves up, it's big. It's really, really big, Nick. It's so big. And also, yes, you just illustrate this conflict where it's like you fell asleep and then you're like, no, I don't need it. Maybe I need it. No, I don't need it. Maybe I should take it. Maybe I should take half of it. Maybe no. And then
Yeah.
yeah, it's the thoughts that create the struggle, not whether we take it or not, really. It's kind of the conflict. But
Yeah.
anyway, good illustration. Okay. So let's say someone is like you, where you're at, Nick. They have decided that, yeah, I do want to come off this. I think that's the path for me. Then to me, what matters then is, okay, we have all this education. Then to me, the next step is kind of like making a plan and then try to not question the plan,
Yeah.
right? And then some people are like, well, should I just like stop cold turkey? For some people, maybe that is the way to go. Like for some people, maybe that feels good to them.
Hmm.
But I do think for most people, I mean, it may be too scary. But for some people, maybe like, yeah, I'm just gonna stop cold turkey. But for most people, I think it makes sense to say like, okay, I have a plan, which is I'm gonna take this amount for 1 week, and then I'm gonna take this amount for 1 week, and then I'm gonna come off. But it actually doesn't matter. What matters to me is not like the milligrams, exactly how you do it, whatnot. It matters how you feel about it. If you think like, I think I'm going to do it like this, and it feels like, no, that's scary, then it's like, okay, maybe take it a little slower, you know? But
Hmm.
when you feel like, I think this plan feels okay for me, then you just decide that's my plan. And then you just kind of trust that plan and not questioning it.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that's so helpful is because um, so many people um, end up kind of going back on medication because they tried coming off of it, which sounds kind of like what you said doesn't make any sense. Daniel, it just sounds silly. But here's what I'm trying to say: when you look at coming off a medication as a trial or an experiment, it usually is quite tricky because the following happens: somebody goes, "Okay, this is it. I'm ready. I'm going to try to come off trazodone, and let's see how it goes." Okay, so they go to bed, and then like, this is the first night. I'm going to try, and then like, okay, I'm not asleep yet, but it's only been half an hour. Okay, now it's been an hour. Maybe I should take it. And those questions come, right? And the conflict comes again. And then they hardly sleep that night. And they're like, okay, that's all right. I'm still going to keep trying, right? And then the second night they try again, and then they don't sleep. And then and as you can see, it's the idea that it's an experiment. I'm trying, I'm seeing how it works. I'm monitoring myself. Like that is what causes that person to not sleep. And then
Yeah.
finally they're like, this is it. I'm going back on it. And then it seems like, oh, that didn't work. I'm hooked. The experiment failed, right?
Yeah.
But it's just because you looked at it as an experiment. You were trying to see if you could come off it, right?
Yeah.
So when it's not that, when it's like, this is a decision, I've decided this and I'm not going to question it, then it's no longer an experiment. It's not a trial. It's just a decision.
Hmm.
That I think helps so much. But I'll pause there. And so far, like, what are your thoughts, Nick?
No, I mean, I think, you know, I've been contemplating what you just said in my head for quite a while now. And, you know, I agree. It's that there's definitely still that fear of, oh, if I get off that, you know, if I stop this, um, you know, I might not be able to sleep. And that's, you know, and I feel like this past year and a half, I've been in this cruise control with this where it, you know, for the time I'm still getting on with my life. So for me, it's been very helpful, um, where I still manage to live a normal life. I'm very fortunate. Um, you know, my bosses are kind of cool. They've allowed me to take the time off when I need. Um, and it's one of those things where I'm at the conflict of that, of sort of being afraid. Yeah. Being afraid not to just stop. I feel like if I were to stop, I would, cut it down slow. Um, and, I feel part of me that makes me feel good is that, and I don't mean this to say this bad about anyone else. Everyone else has different struggles. I feel like I'm at a relatively low like just a relatively low amount of things that I take that I've heard of other people taking many things, and everyone's struggle is different. This is currently mine. I'm not, but I feel like I don't. It's just that one little thing for me.
Yeah.
I say little. It's not really that little. It is my struggle, and you know, I like I said, I vary between 12 and 25 milligrams of that, and um, the funny thing is too, in the beginning, I mean, this is just one little add-on here. My doctor was saying that after, a few weeks, I'm going to need to start ramping up the Trazodone. And that at first was like, oh God, and I never had to. I never, and I feel like there's a weird thing where like, I have that thing near my bedside. Sometimes I fall asleep, and it's like, it's just a weird mental trick. I don't
Yes. You know,
know.
I, why I'm laughing here is because you reminded me of another. I don't think it was a guest. I think somebody had a conversation with the comment section, but who basically said, "My sleeping medications help me a lot. I never take them, but I have them in a closet, and I know I can take them if I need them, and I haven't used them in a year." And it's so funny to me. It's like kind of like, yes, they help you because you just know they're there, but you never take them. But it's like a little similar to what you said, just the
Yeah,
comfort of knowing that they're. But also like it is it's a safety thing, just like you said. It is of course you're scared of not sleeping if you don't take them, and of course like not taking something. It's an act of a lot of courage, a lot of faith, a
yeah,
lot of
yeah,
bravery. Um, and like two more things I want to add right away here is that number one, um, oh yeah. This is the one I wanted to ask about. Like, oftentimes, again, nothing medical advice, just general thoughts here is like when somebody takes the like kind of like sometimes it's 25 milligrams, sometimes it's 12 and a half, sometimes it's this. It's a little tricky because oftentimes the brain always does this like it's this problem solving machine, right? So it's like, oh, 12.5 didn't work, but 25 worked. Maybe I should take this. It's almost easier, generally speaking, I think, if somebody just if they decide to take a medication, to just take the same dose, the same time at night, no matter what, because that medication actually becomes like a non-factor. Then the brain just learns to see that, aha, my variation in sleep has nothing to do with the variation in medication.
yeah,
And when you kind of shifting, going up and down, then
mhm,
it doesn't really get, then it's a confusing, it doesn't really see that so easily. So
yeah,
that's a little thing to add.
yeah,
And one more thing before I kind of ask your thoughts again, Nick.
yeah,
Was this one that, let's say somebody decides to taper down, and let's say they started taking a lower dose, and then they have a sleepless night or sleep very little. I think just something to, we already talked about so many times, but I want to emphasize it again, which is that it is not that you took less of the pill that created that sleepless night. It is just how you thought about it. It's just thoughts. It was nothing else. And then when you know that I had a sleepless night, and that's because I was a little worried. I was a little scared, but there's nothing strange or usual going on. There's nothing wrong with me.
yeah,
That makes that process forward a little easier, I think.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's very interesting you say that because there's nights, I'm on the couch watching TV and I'm, dozing off, getting tired, and then I go up to my room to go to bed, and it's like, I start thinking about, okay, I got to take it, and it's like I wake up a little more. You know what I mean? But
Exactly.
but I'm very thankful, and and very I'm in a good place in regards to amount of sleep, and I can get on with my life, but there's still that one little, not little, it's little but it's big, that one hurdle I want to get over that, and I feel like I'm close.
Yeah, you're super close, Nick. And what was I gonna say here? Yeah, that it's like again, so many things have like two sides to them. Which is one is like I'm really glad to hear that overall, like you're sleeping fine, generally speaking, your life is going great. But you're in the comfort zone, which also makes us like it's a little harder for us to leave the comfort zone, which makes it
Yeah.
harder to make this decision of stopping it, right?
Yeah, no, it's very true because I through watching your videos, and it's mostly your videos. Like you've one huge thing I'll say is that don't that one thing that's helped me is even if you get a bad night of sleep, this was a huge hurdle for me. You know, don't worry about it. Don't stress about it. You know what I mean? And it's to me, I think that's one of the biggest steps is because and by not worrying about how much you slept and just trying to get on with your day as best you can, I feel like that starts, at least for me, it rewired my brain to not get mad when I'm not sleeping, not think about it so much. And I think that to me was like the biggest, thing that helped me through this whole thing.
So wonderful to hear this. I'm so happy, Nick. And I just I have this one last thing I want to add as part of my kind of spiel around this thing. And there really is just one more thing to add, and it's this one that let's say someone decided that I'm going to wean off or I'm going to stop taking this thing, and they do, right? And let's say that they actually, let's say they did fine for some time, and they're like, I haven't taken this in a few nights, and I'm doing fine, and they kind of look excited or something like that, and then it comes to this night when they're really really anxious, they're scared, they're anxious, they're kind of panicking, blah 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 blah, and then I get this message so many times from clients. This is why it came to me like, and then they take it, then they take that pill that they worked so hard to come off, right?
Hmm.
And then I get this message like, Daniel, I'm a terrible person. I caved in. I took it. I destroyed all the work I've done. What's next for me? And then I'm always like, this is a small potato. This is just nothing.
Yep.
This just means that you were a little anxious that time. And taking
Mhm.
that pill that one time, maybe it's just what you needed that time. It was an act of self-kindness, nothing more. And so I just want to,
Yeah.
add that one too.
Yeah. No, I think that's a huge thing for people to understand that if you do, you know, need to do something like that, nothing wrong with it.
Exactly. And it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean like all the things you learned are still there. Nothing has changed. Doesn't mean anything. Just
People got to tell themselves you're not incapable of not sleeping. You can.
everybody can, 100%.
Yeah.
Very well, Nick. Yeah, I think I sense that you don't have any more questions, or do you?
I mean, I have 100, I have 100 questions, but for now, I think that's a great little story about me and my situation. And if there's anyone else out there in this similar situation, just you know, don't don't try too hard. That's it.
Absolutely, 100%. And I was going to add something sort of similar to that, but in a different direction, which was like if anyone out there who hears this has been where Nick is, and you've stopped taking the medication, and you want to share something in the comment section about that, that would be great. So a little bit of hope and encouragement for everyone out there. So Nick, it was super nice having you, and stay in touch, leave comments. Maybe we'll be a guest again. Who knows? But it was super nice having you today.
Definitely.
Okay,
Thank
bye for now.